let's go ahead and get started. Tonight, we are going to talk about breaking through the heart wall. You know, it's something that there's so many different things that I've learned about it, and most of you are going to be familiar with a lot of it. So I want some interaction as we go so people can give us different ideas. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Voila, there you go. And so breaking through the heart wall, you know, I get new clients every week, which is really kind of cool. I enjoy working with them, and usually what happens is somebody told them that they needed to talk to me about heart issues. So it depends on how it's been described by that person. And, you know, most of you know Jan Van Zandt is a big promoter of me. And so she does these shows, or she'll have a class, and then she has people tell them, okay, so what's going on? And they'll say, I'm having these relationship issues. And she goes, you need to talk to Tom Heintz, you know, and she'll give them the information sometimes. Excuse me. Still recovering. Hopefully that won't happen very much. I'm on the antibiotic. We're almost done. So anyway, what she normally tells them is that you need to talk to Tom Heintz, and she will either give me the link or just tell me how to spell my name, and they go out and they Google me and they come. And when I say, how did you hear about me, or what was the issue? And she said, oh, I was at this event that she did, and when I told her I had a heart issue, she said that I should call you. Something about a heart wall. So understanding the heart wall was a huge thing for them because they didn't understand what it is. And so and I didn't know what it was when I first was introduced to this. So let's go here. One of the cool things that I have learned that I didn't understand before I started doing this work was how marvelous the body is. You know, the things that are surrounding me that I have no idea are there until this awareness was given to me. Anybody else relate to that? You know, we just had things that were going on and we just didn't understand that. But the body's ability to heal itself brings us through all these different senses that we would not normally experience. And when I first learned about this, I thought, okay, so what is the realm of the heart wall? I mean, what is the effect of the heart? And why is that? And I thought, first of all, when I learned about this, I go, wow, that's the only wall we'll have, right? It's just one heart wall. And I learned that that wasn't necessarily true either. But I remember having the influence and the awareness of how far out your heart projects and being able to read things coming in. So it's almost like a sonar in some way, or radar, that can bring us in and make connections with people. I mean, I'm sure you've all had these experiences where somebody, you just see them almost, and you just have this connection. When you talk to them and you develop this connection, and I think it comes from the heart, and the heart is just, I think it's more powerful than your brain in most cases. But you know, this is part of the cool part about our body. Kind of got off just a little bit here. Now, of course, most of you understand that I believe that there's basically 5.5 parts. Well, 5 and however you would do half here, 5.5 parts. And I teach a class about this, and it's the consciousness, the subconscious, the ego, the inner child, and then what I call the keeper. And each one of these has like our A team, and then all 5 of these build the half, which is the personality and the identity of the person. So each one of those is important. And so when I say we consist of multiple parts, that's what I'm referring to. And each one of those has an assignment. Now, the subconscious is what we're going to be talking about mostly today, because it's really important. And I debated whether to put this picture or the one of the iceberg where you just see the little tip and then the huge monster part below. The consciousness is the little tip, and all down below is the iceberg part that you can't see. That is the major part. And I think the general is the subconscious. In other words, it's the general. It tells everybody what to do. And it functions in the highest priority of keeping you alive. That's a nice thing, huh? Because if we had to consciously think about everything, think about it, that it does so much for us. I mean, I'm really, really aware of my breathing right now because I still can't lay down and sleep without the junk coming up, and I have to sit up, cough it out, and I'm looking forward to that opportunity of laying down and sleeping like I enjoy so much. So for the last 3-4 days, nights, probably more than that, since at least by Sunday, I have not been able to lay down hardly at all. And I might get an hour or so and then I'm junked up and I have to get up. And I think, that breathing, I focused on my breathing so much that focusing in and out, we just take it for granted in our regular life that we can just breathe in and out. That's what the subconscious is doing. So one of the priorities, keep you alive. I always tell everybody, it's not there to make you happy or to make you healthy. It's there to make sure you keep breathing. So if it needs to, it'll actually shut systems down and redirect that energy so that you keep alive. Now, we may think we have control over that, but trust me, if the subconscious doesn't want you to do something, you'll know it because you won't be able to do that thing. Everybody on board so far? Okay, good, perfect. So, did you know that you can die of heartache? Now, I would never have thought about that before, but it's really true. You think about, I get a kick out of this. My daughter sent out a text, and we have WhatsApp, and that's how our family stays together. And she sent a picture of my 11-year-old grandson in school. He's got 3 different pots. And in these pots, he planted cilantro seeds. And what he did was he's doing an experiment. One, he just sets aside, leaves it by itself. The next one, he talks really, really mean to it. And he's just like constantly, stupid, stupid, stupid. And then the other one, he talks really, really nice to. And I didn't know what the heck she was doing when she put that out there. But then I said, she goes, guess what's going on in our house? And then she explained the procedure. It makes a difference on how you treat the plants. I understood that concept. My father had a green thumb. He had an entire greenery. We're not talking a little greenhouse. We're talking 40 feet by 74 feet. It was huge, and he would store plants, and he could just grow anything. He could look at the dang thing and it would sprout roots and he could plant it. Me, I can't, I kill everything. But I noticed that he always had this elevator music going on there. It drove me crazy. This was the 70s. You're not supposed to have that kind of music. Rock and roll. He says, no, I don't want to kill my plants. And I thought he was joking. But he had the most amazing plants, and he just kept that music there because it was easy, it was higher level, and working that way. But it's the same thing that can happen. Your heart can be submitted to things, and of course we all have had this happen. And guess how I know? I know because we all have heart walls. And what the job of the subconscious, I would say, I checked this the other night on muscle testing, and I came up with about 84% of the people out there have a heart wall. And I thought, man, that seems low. But then again, some people are just very forgiving, and maybe they've just gotten to the points, or they've done the work that needs to happen to release that heart wall. But when the heart wall feels that, or when the subconscious feels that you're under attack, then what it does is it looks around and says, hey, I got to figure out, how do I protect this? When the bombs are falling, you need a shelter. So a bomb shelter can be constructed. And one of the easiest things for the body to use is trapped emotions. They're low frequency in most cases. They're not really usable, and that they kind of float along there when they attach to us. And of course, it's not like they just come from nowhere. There's usually a reason for those emotions, but they'll attach to us and they'll just sit there like barnacles. I like to use that idea because barnacles will, believe it or not, they will group. So if you get one barnacle, the other one's not going to go to a whole different place. It usually comes similar, or wherever the weakest place in the body is where these emotions will attach. And they're just sitting there. And a lot of times, if you think about it, these are the emotions that, with boats, if you have a barnacle, it takes, first they're really not that big, but once you start hitting a whole bunch of them, it'll take you longer to go from point A to point B because of the drag. I know they did a big test with the American Navy, and they realized that they had to start taking the barnacles off these things because it was costing them so much more for fuel than it would if they were cleared. So there was a cost and I think going on there. So our body's kind of the same way. We have these barnacles that are there and they're available. So the subconscious will link them up and connect them into a bomb shelter for us. So that's important to understand. Okay, so let's see. Next one here. So what is a heart wall? Now, first of all, has everybody read the emotion code? Know what's going on? With the emotion code, Dr. Nelson, he was in the infancy of the whole body code thing, trying to put this together. And his wife was feeling, she would go with him to the events. And I don't know if you met Jean, she's a really neat lady. We've got an opportunity to spend some time, my wife and I, with her and Dr. Brad. And he was at one of these events and she just was not feeling like she could be really accepted. There was some kind of distance that she felt, that she just felt on the outside of things. And Dr. Brad had a waking vision, is what he called it, of this beautiful floor. Now I tried to find the wood floor of like the Grand Hotel or something that was just beautiful wood. And he says it was the most beautiful floor and his wife's heart was underneath it. And they tried to figure out what was causing this. Why would this vision there? And he realized that this wall, or this flooring actually is what the wall was consisting of, was protecting the heart. But in doing so was creating something that it couldn't really feel connected. Does that make sense? So that was his first vision of this. And that's when he started messing with these walls and coming to many different realizations. Now, the ability to create a wall is not just around the heart. Anything your body needs to be protected, it might do that. So when you're working with something and you find that there's something going on, usually if you're looking for walls or willing to accept that, the body will say, boom, yeah, we got a wall. In fact, I use when I realize that when my intention says it could be something other than a heart wall, when it comes up and says you have a heart wall, I go, is this a heart wall? If it's not, then I have another chart that I call a disconnect chart and it says, where is this? And it could be anywhere. It could be about your finances. It could be about your whole body. It could be about a relationship. I had one today where her wall was made out of fat because she was trying to lose weight, and that in this particular situation, that wall was created to protect her from toxins. And I thought, wow, because that's actually one of the reasons why people gain. One of the reasons is that the body will encapsulate the toxin in fat to keep them safe. So anyway, I found though that with the heart wall, we'll go back to this, and this is probably the most common one that the subconscious is used on every single person. So you go, well, how can that possibly be that everybody would have a heart wall? And you think about it, we're all kind of the same. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what gender you are, but you basically have the same anatomy. And every part of us is, doesn't matter. You can look completely different. And if you got a donor, it can be completely different. And yet those parts are sometimes interchangeable. But so you think about the programming that we come down to this earth with, part of the subconscious's programming is to protect the body. And this is one way of doing it. So unique that we found that almost every heart wall original is made out of these trapped emotions, these negative ones. So let's see. One of the things I've noticed that, and Dr. Nelson was kind of leaning towards taking this away, but I like to find out how thick one is and I like to know what it's made out of. So that is the direction that I go. So when someone has a heart wall, they ask me, well, what does that do? Well, why am I concerned about this? And I think it's interesting that once I describe some of the things that happen with a heart wall, they go, oh yeah, that's me. That's me. And one of them is that it has a tendency to distance you from others. We talked about Dr. Brad's wife, Jean, heart under the wall. And sometimes it's way up high, and sometimes it's really, really thick. But each one has a tendency to separate you or your ability to communicate with somebody else on a full level. So I use the example all the time with my old house in Texas. We had a glass door, and we had a regular wood door. And I would say, so just picture yourself on the outside on my porch, the glass door's shut, my wood door's shut. I'm on the inside, and we want to have a conversation. Well, we can have that. It'll work. I might have to raise my voice. Of course, we're going to have to raise our voices. We're not mad. We're just trying to communicate. And yet, you know, I'm an old fart, so I don't always hear well. They may not understand the way that I talk. I might have an accent compared to theirs. It's just really hard, and we're going to walk away from that conversation feeling like we really didn't connect. Now, open up the doors, and now I can see their beautiful face. I can read their body language. We can talk in a normal voice, and we'll make it feel like we're really communicating. Now, you got to remember, a heart wall is not a bad thing. It's what's protected you from the onslaught of things that could hurt you. And if the subconscious perceives that it's of danger to you, you want that ability, and that's why there's different walls in your body. So I just want you to be aware that that's one of the reasons what the effects are. Now, when we release that, it's amazing to see the differences that can happen right away, especially within families. So, what's it made out of? Now, I like this part. I think it's a great thing to understand because there's so many times that it's symbolic of something that this person went through. So, we know that everything is energy, and that energy, we're talking about those little balls of energy, but the actual material, we know it's made out of the emotions in the most cases. Now, there are walls that are made out of toxins. There's no walls that are made out of belief systems. I had one of that today. But the heart wall is usually made out of these emotions. And it's there to fend off the little arrows and stuff. I spent so much time building this about 4 years ago. And I thought, wow, I should drag this one out. It's still a viable wall there. Okay, so this, my dears, is the chart that I use to define what kind of composition the wall is. What's it made out of? Do we really need this? No, you could just spend time each time you really wanted to. Most people say, is it wood? Is it metal? Is it paper? Is it plastic? Excuse me. And that will put them onto the trail if they need to know that. But I thought, oh shoot, I'll just write them down. So I kept creating this. It's got over 300 different items. And I put slashes in there when I ran out of room. So one might be one, and then like one here we got in the A3, the top, I'll say, is it petals or is it pollen? And so I know that one of those items is close. Now remember, the subconscious is going to find the closest one. And I got one down on the bottom, E7. It's not on this chart. It's the one I dread. Usually I'll say, is it an element? And I might bring up an element chart because that's usually what I'm looking for. And if I don't find it on here, I'll say, is there something that's similar? Or is there something close? Now, the interesting thing for me is if it's something that is, what was I going to say here? Means something to them. If there's a reason that they might have something there. Quite frequently, plastic comes up. That's C3 over here. And I'll see, and I'll ask, I'll go, is it A, B, C, D? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? And then once I got that box, I'll say, is it top or bottom? So that gives me an idea to break it out fairly quickly. And plastic comes up. Starting at plastic, clear, colored, soft, and hard. And there's so many toys that you grew up with. Sometimes it's the old red plastic, whatever it was, that is what you built your wall around because you were safe inside. You were secure. So, makes sense so far? Once again, you don't have to have this, but I like it because it helps me look at things and figure things out a little bit easier. One of them over here, for example, is E3, the top. It says Lexan plastic. Well, I know that Lexan plastic is what they make bulletproof glass out of. And sometimes people will have that wall around them, and it's made out of something they can see through, but it's bulletproof. They're safe. The other question I always ask is there a door or is there a window? Because if they're in something that's like a tungsten steel chamber, and I'll ask, do you have a window? And they'll say, yeah, which means they can see people coming. And sometimes I said, do you have a door? And it was one of my clients that says, well, do I have a window? Do I have a door? And I thought, never thought to ask that. And when I found out they had a door, I found that she could exit and do what she wanted to do and then come back and be safe. So it was a way of manipulating that particular wall. And I thought, wow, people have access or to exit or to stay inside. And then I asked, have you ever used the door? And the answer comes back, no. And I thought, wow, the whole time they were trapped inside. They never allowed themselves to actually be anywhere else. So, yes, question.
Can I share?
Absolutely.
Not a question. I love this chart because it helped me to know my client much better. Like I had a client that he got a wall made out of ghosts. And
out of skulls, you said?
No, ghosts. You have one that is ghost, like spirits, ghosts.
Oh, ghost. Okay.
Yeah.
Made out of ghosts. Okay.
Yeah. And I was, weird. And she said that when she was a little girl, she always dreams with people that passed away, like almost every day. So,
wow.
Yes.
So what are some of the ones that people have come into? I'm surprised how many have explosives, that they literally have landmines. And when the people get too close, and I'll say, people don't get very close to you, do they? And they just say, no, I said, in fact, it's pretty dangerous for them to get there, isn't it? And they go, yeah, sometimes I just don't let anybody get close to me. And it's been, even like kryptonite, there's one on D4 at the top, kryptonite or radioactive. One. I had one young client, she was 12, and she was being poisoned. Her body was somehow getting this weird type of energy that was literally killing her. And so it was strange for me to see this. I'm going, what the heck? Well, I knew the family, and I knew that her older brother liked to do sci-fi. He would create, and he was a really good artist. They would do Jurassic. He could draw dinosaurs. He could draw all kinds of things. But what he did was he would create superheroes. And what I found when I was testing with this is that she had some alien metal that they had thought about, and she had this as her wall, because it can be anything. But yet she was getting these problems that was, like I said, was killing her. And so I realized that, and we released her heart wall, got rid of that, and that energy all went away. And I thought, wow, how powerful is that? Hang on just a minute here. There we go. So just be aware that the mind is extremely powerful. And that's why sometimes I think it's really good to have a list like this, because it helps us understand what we are dealing with. Make sense? Any other comments? I muted you all, so if you don't want to say something, you got to unmute.
This is incredible. I've never actually even thought about that. I just suppose, stick with the norm. But if you don't mind, I'd love to use this chart too. This is an absolutely mind-blowing.
Well, this is, I mean, you could probably steal it right off the screen. I have it included in the Ultimate Healer package. So that's one of the charts that I have that's all over. I create a whole ton of charts for the Ultimate Healer program. Sometimes there's too many, out there. For those,
There's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot. But this is one that I really liked, and you're welcome to go ahead and do a screenshot or whatever. And I know for Barbara, for example, she likes charts and rework them, which is perfectly fine. You know, all came out of my brain. So it's this stuff that has helped me. Make sense?
Tom, can I share something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I love your brain and I love the charts that come from your brain. But I had a brand new client this week, and before we got started, you know, and I was asking her what issues she wanted to work on, and she said she's got something about her that makes her do everything the hard way. And the example she used was, you know, instead of using a backhoe to move a big pile of sand, I'm going to use tweezers and move one grain at a time. That's how I choose to make things hard on myself. So we tested, there was a heart wall and it was made of sand. It was like, okay. I just love those coincidences.
And you know what? That happens often. Yeah, one that comes up frequently, interestingly enough, and it seems to be with the pretty young ladies who I'm working with, and it seems to be honey. Now, honey, and I had this really beautiful young lady, her mother had just died, and we were working with her. Her dad made me to work with her and her mom, and she had the heart wall made out of honey. It was flowing, and she could see it. And the guys that would keep coming to her would just get stuck in the honey, and she would just watch them disappear as they go. And I thought, whoa, that's almost scary. And so, anyway, that's just one of the little things. You'll find all kinds of stuff depending on what you focus on. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Yeah.
I have a question real quick. I listened to another practitioner who talks about how you can have heart walls to the world, to the situations, to other people, the things you hate. So do you test for what they're all made out of, or do you just release the heart walls like to the world and stuff?
I ask. I say, I ask first of all, is it a heart? Now, I suppose you could have a heart wall to the world, but I don't call them heart walls at that point. I just call them walls, because there's going to be, you can ask. I always ask when I see that come up, because I know with most of my clients, I've released the heart wall. And then I ask in the heart wall, of course, that's what he says too, is once you get done doing the heart wall removal, you always ask, well, is there a hidden heart wall? And very small percentage of the time do I see something that says yes. Otherwise, I see, and I'll say, is this a heart wall? And I say no. So it's just a regular wall. And I actually use this for another thing too, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. But I always ask, is it a wall or is it a barrier? So that's something to think about. But yes, you could actually have, in fact, I don't like that, but I got it up here. No, I don't have that one, I don't think. Oh, yeah, I don't think I do. Oh, is that the one I wanted? Sorry. Huh. I don't know if I just switched my charts or not. Apparently not. Oh, apparently not. So anyway, let's move on. Come back to that. How's that? Because yeah, all different kinds of walls. Don't find out what out of except for usually the wall, the heart wall, because I find that this is usually the thickest one. Others are. I find that most walls are less than 14 or 15 inches. And of course, it's my intention, but that's what I have found. The heart wall is the biggest one usually, and I mean, you can have a brain wall. You can have almost any kind of wall. Does that answer your question pretty much for now? Okay. So let's move on to the next one. So here's the question everybody asks. You know, when you think about it, most people in the world have never had their heart wall removed. And so that's always something that you need to be aware of, that we have been dealing with it until I found this thing. I didn't know that I even had a heart wall, and then I found, yeah, I got a huge one. In fact, I had more than one. And so I had to go ahead and take care of that. And the question is, do we need it? This heart wall, I mean, will it be helpful to you? Yeah, if you've got no other protection, it's a good thing. You know, it's one of the reasons why God gave us this opportunity. Just like negative emotions, they have their purpose. Everything is there for a reason. But if it isn't removed or released in some way, it will be with you. It doesn't go away by itself. So you actually have to physically either do some kind of work. It could be a loving work in some way, or it could be something that that can be, you know, that you can find elsewhere or whatever. So, okay, so let's see. Somebody's been trying to get a hold of me, and I was just like, I don't know who was calling me here, but there's no names. The same person called me 3 times. I'm going, hope it's not somebody trying to get on the call here. So anyway, you usually don't need it unless you're under attack in some way. Now, like I said, almost everybody gets one of these. I find very seldom, I think over 80%. And guess what? You don't have to be just a human to have a heart wall. You know, you could be an animal and have a heart wall. I've released lots of heart walls from animals and pets. One of the things when I got to Texas, we were right close by the zoo. And I kept thinking, well, shoot, wouldn't it be fun to work with the animals in the zoo? So I went to the zoo and I looked around. I'm going, man, looks like we got a ton of depressed animals, because I tested, I connect, I test. I'm going, they're not happy. And I thought, what would the difference be if we could do some work on these animals? Do you think I could get anybody to talk to me? I'm sure they all thought I was loony. So I kept trying to find the right people to talk to, and never made, oh, they did tell me at one time, well, you'd have to bring that before the board of directors for the zoo. And I'm thinking, man, I'm not expecting to be paid for this thing. I just want to see if we can make a difference. It would be really cool if you had a depressed lion and you could go in there and they'd call you and you could be the guy who comes in and works with them. But I got to the point where I thought, you know, they're probably not going to hurt anything if you go in and work with the animals at the zoo. It's going to, you know, they don't have to know what you're doing, I suppose. But if it's somebody's pet, you need to ask permission. So, okay, one of the things you do when you do release it, we substitute the shield to protect you when the wall is released. Now, do you think the body would allow you to release the wall if it didn't realize that you would be able to protect it in some other way? So you got to think this through. So when it understands that the shield can be there, and I always ask, although I find out they have a heart wall, I say, is it okay if we remove it? Do you still need it? Because I've worked on people, and then I'm just like, we're not making progress. What's the deal here? And I come back and you do another session, and you find out, well, yeah, my relationship with my husband right now is really, really bad. Or I'm in this fight at work, or I've got, and you realize that, well, their body still needs that protection, which is why the wall was built in the first place. And sure as heck, it ain't going to let you release it until it's ready to have something replace it. So just be aware. So how do you get rid of these critters? Well, the biggest one is up there at the top. This is intention. So by intending what we're going to do, that's when these things can be released. But we also have crystals. We got magnets. There's a number of different devices you can use. Those 0 pens, 0-point pens. I got one right here that I paid a pretty penny for, over $200. And so, in fact, I'll probably hold it up here a little better. And not all of them are real. So you got to make sure if you're going to buy one, you get one that's not a counterfeit. What it is, it's got crushed jewels inside. And because when you do this, you can literally almost feel it energetically as you go up. And a lot of times if people have pain, they'll just stick that right in that area, and it'll make a difference for you and release it. But you can also release energies with this too. But in my mind, it's all intention on how you do this. So I don't use a magnet anymore. And I have crystals. I've got everything here, but I find that I don't need it. And there's enough energy in your fingers that you can do that work also. Somebody have a comment? No? Okay. So one of the things that we teach is that you use the governing meridian to do that. So the governing meridian starts here at the top of your lip. I think it goes the other way around, but it's from this lip up over the top of your head all the way down to your tailbone. As long as you're on that strip anywhere, you can be releasing. Now, I go down to release, which means go over the top of the head if you're going to do it that way. And then to install something, you would go the other way. Has a tendency to put it everywhere. But remember that there's reflexology also. And I've mentioned this before in other classes. You know, I remember feeling so stupid as I'm sitting in the middle seat next to this lady on the plane. And we're talking as you do. And of course, I'm all excited about this. And I tell her about this program. And she goes, well, and all of a sudden they unburden their most innermost things. And I'm like, okay, you're having female problems. Okay, let me show you how this works. And I would do this work all over the top of my head because I wasn't going to run it down her back. And so I was like going like this. And I'm trying to be real nonchalant about it so people aren't looking at me and realizing how strange I was. And I went to Dr. Nelson's, one of the many retreats that I've been to. And this woman was sitting next to me, and she was just sitting there. All her testing was, she was just sitting there rocking back and forth, sitting down. So I never thought about the sway test being done from the waist. And then I saw her going like this with her hand. And I had to ask, I'm saying, so what are you doing? She goes, oh, Dr. Nelson showed me that I can use reflexology. Well, on your hand, this is the governing meridian. So you can actually, I used to take my magnet and pretend this is a magnet. I would just go down like this. There's a refrigerator magnet. And I would just go straight down like this, installing the other way. So I would do this, and I found that because I'm using those cheap magnets from the refrigerator that are kind of like little signs, little things to advertise, I was turning my hand black here. I was rubbing it on my hands. But I don't look so bad. It doesn't look so crazy. And I'm thinking, I'll share this with Josh Nelson next time that I got a system that works better than over the head. So I go ahead and I tell Josh, I said, yeah, we got this. I'm using this. And he goes, I got one better. I'm going, oh, he's always got one better. And what he does is he taps. So he just taps to release. Once again, it's through intention. Okay. So that being said, okay, so basically the other thing, you know, there's a ton of different ways to test. There's a ton of different ways to release. And you think about it, the easier, the more direct way of doing it is through intention. Okay. So let's see, what's the next one? Questions about this, about releasing, anybody?
So you're saying you don't use a magnet or crystals or anything anymore? You
No.
just use your own hand and intention.
I got them. Here's the mag boy. Here's the mag creator. Now, if somebody comes to my office, I use the mag creator because they expect a back rub. But in reality, I don't use them. And you'll notice if you go to Dr. Nelson's, rarely, in fact, he does use this sometimes, which is the magnet, which has got the emotion code on it. Okay, and I got to the point where my wife worked in a medical facility, one of those urgent cares. They have a ton of those little magnetic business cards. And so I would just use one of those. I'd trim the corners on it. And the other cool thing was that in my book, I could put a slit in the back thing, on the back cover, and I always had a spot to throw a magnet in here. So, in fact, this has even got the urgent care place that she had. So I just trimmed that up, and when I had to use a magnet, that's what I used, and I always had it with me. I had the impression that I always had to use a magnet, and so it got to be the point where when I'm doing traveling, it would sometimes get bulky, because I got one extra thing. And so now I'm down to minimizing as much as possibly can. And I have found, because I believe in what I do, it works just fine. But you need to test and see if that's going to make a difference. And if there is a difference, then you need to find out, why is there a difference? Okay, because there's usually, it's what we're keeping us from being able to do. Okay, so I'm trying to follow on. Barbara sent me some stuff here. Let's see if I can pick it up here. Okay, so let's see.
Sorry, I just sent that so you could look at it later. I just tested it.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if I needed to put it on there right now.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
Not a problem. She was talking about wanting to know, I had a client who wanted to know what her heart wall was made out of. So, okay, so let's move on here. What are different types of barriers? Here's a classic example. See, this is like I was describing. This person is trying to communicate through the wall. The other one's going, what are you saying? That's really one of the biggest things that the heart wall does for us. And when you remove that, it's pretty fun to watch the difference that people have in their communication ability at work, at home, in their love life. But let's see. Yes, you can have walls around anything, and they can have hidden heart walls. My sister got into this through my suggestion, but she had more money than me, and I'd just gone through a bankruptcy. So she goes to Dr. Nelson's retreat, and she comes back, and I'm thinking that thing should be a certain way because I'm following everything he says and best I can, but I couldn't afford the retreat, and I couldn't afford the body code. So she comes back, and she says, well, I found out that I have 32 heart walls. And I'm like, oh, you just don't get it. He says, you went there and you come back and you have 32 heart walls. And I was so anal and so single-minded that I thought that was just completely ridiculous. So I whip off a message to Connie Barton at the time, who was Dr. Nelson's assistant. And I said, Connie, is this true? Can you have more than, one or two heart walls? And she goes, well, I'll talk to Dr. Brad. And she came back later and she typed in and says, no, usually you only have one, maybe two, but that's pretty much all. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm vindicated. My sister's a Looney Tune. Anyway, it turns out that later on she was vindicated. And I'm going, oh my gosh, you're going to have walls all over the place. And some of them are heart walls. Some of them are inherited. Some of them just are around other items. And I've got, wow, that was an eye-opener for me because it tells me that there's always room for expansion. Doesn't matter who you are. So by deep diving into these things, we can know more. Now, on Dr. Nelson's behalf, the simpler he can make this for people to get involved, the better. And when you think about that, that's what he's trying to support. Because I would go there and I'd say, oh, I got all this extra stuff. And I talked to Josh, actually, Connie at the time, said that, well, Tom, you need to realize that he's got to keep it simple for all these new people. And excuse me. And I talked to Josh and he goes, oh, I know there's so much more. He says, but I can't put it all in there. He says, wait till the next version. Well, guess what? We just got our new version, or will get our new version. I haven't seen it yet. So, but like I said, Harry and Marcia, you talked about this today, about this other person talking about walls around circumstances and things like that. Yeah. Yes, I find that happens. And now when I look at a wall, I keep my mind completely open. And I have another chart that I use, and my healers know about it. Let's see if I can bring one of these up here so without destroying it here. I guess I didn't work. Let me just open this file real quick. Because when we open, here we go. Oh, I had it right there. Well, let's just do that. It'll open a new one here, but you should be able to see it. This is some of this. These are some of the charts for the Ultimate Healer. So we want to go down to, keep going. There we are. So this particular chart, let me just do a slideshow from this current slide. Can you see that? So this is one of my disconnect charts. So when I go to the disconnect chart, it's the same as the one I got now. Let me see. I update these. This was pretty much the same. I handwrite in a lot of stuff too as I locate them. So I use this disconnect chart. Anytime I get a disconnect, I try and find out what they are. But when you got a wall, almost everything's on here. So I like to double use the items that I have. So is it a gland? Is it 1, 2, 3? It goes, oh, it's in 3. Okay, so is it A, B, C, D? Okay, so is it morning sickness, motion sickness, inner turmoil? You can even have a wall around inner turmoil. So that's what I do to use these, because then it goes to other areas. You'll notice that these are mostly the body in the first 4, but other, so we got hierarchy of needs, the emotions, which group I use, phase disconnects, inner outer self, reality, present. This one comes up all the time. Financial, your dreams, grounding. It could be anything that you have a wall, or it could be alternatives over here where it looks about your character. Frequently. Sorry. Anyway, so you can have a wall around that too. So let's get back to our other place. Questions on that? Straightforward. You can build what you want out of this. See, where were we? Okay, so let's go back to slideshow. Excuse me. Thought I hit slideshow. Oh, I guess I already got it. Here we go. So let's go to the next one. Guys ever seen this before? I'm being facetious. Of course, this is Dr. Nelson's version of the 60 emotions. Now, I always like to tell people, yes, there's 60 emotions, all of them bad, but you know, they all have a purpose. And so this is the beauty of this whole system that Dr. Nelson put together, was that it was in charts. For me, that made a lot of sense as a former programmer at one point in my life. And so column A, column B, 1 through 6. And I love the fact that he said heart, small intestine, these are the different areas that these emotions are generated from. Now, most of the time, this works, and this is something that's small enough that we can, you know, they got the chart that Dr. Nelson built, and this is magnetic, and it can also be used to release or down their back or whatever. And most of the time, this is enough. Sometimes it isn't, and I go to this expanded chart. And that's where you start coming up with, all the other charts are on there already, but all the other emotions are on this chart, but there's a few extras on here. And so you'll have things like fluster that comes up all the time. There might be another one that is like appalled, or displeasure, or hostility. I think that's not on the other one. Anyway, there's enough of them on here. There's 102 of them that kind of give you a little bit more. And I find that these emotions kind of define it a little bit more so that we can figure out what's really going on. And I have another chart. Let's just look at that real quick. I don't know if it's on here or not. It may not be on this list. No, it's not. Okay, so that has the definitions. So that's one of the things I include in my Ultimate Healer program is I got 2 sets of definitions, depending on what chart you have. So, what do you think so far?
You're blowing my mind. I definitely need to know more about this Ultimate Healer thing, 100%.
Okay, well, you got a few Ultimate Healers out there. What do you think?
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what Tom has put together. It's so far beyond the, no offense to Dr. Nelson, but it's so far beyond emotion code and body code. It's just, it blows my mind. I love using it.
It's a great supplement to the body code, and it works.
So would you say that you would have to do the body code to be able to do this as well? Because at the moment, I'm not actually body code qualified.
I have not done either certification. I've only done Tom's Ultimate Healer certification after being his client for 2 years and getting such amazing results.
And I am emotion code certified. I'm working on my certification in the body code, and I really like having the body code, but Tom's Ultimate Healer materials go way beyond that, and it's just extremely helpful to use it together with it for me.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, we got more and more people are getting involved. Talk to me. So, you know, the program, I was trying to do them in groups. We just did an Ultimate Healer retreat in November. It was here, and that was really, really cool because we were able to get everybody into network. I mean, those that were there, you got most of them on, well, a lot of you were there from on tonight. What'd you think of that event? Is that beneficial to you?
Oh, it was awesome. And it was awesome to do that group processing thing that we did.
Yeah.
It was so amazing.
Very helpful.
So just so that you understand what the group processing thing is, we use intuition with a lot of things, and it's interesting how accurate the intuition can be. But each one of us has a different angle of the same intuition. So when we put together a group, we had a person that came in that we were working with, and she had a little bit of time, 5 minutes, whatever, to describe what their problem was. And we actually got more information than what probably needed, because then we did qualifying questions from the panel, which was the rest of the people that were there who were Ultimate Healers. And then what we did is we literally wrote the things that we felt needed to be addressed. Now, individually, I think that I do pretty good, and I know that these other people do really well because they've done sessions for me. And so I understand that part of it, but we came with different ideas, and suddenly we could look at it from a whole different perspective, which was really cool. And so, and not knowing what the background of these particular situations were, those people, I think, were very, very grateful for the work that we were able to do. So this is one of the things, in fact, Nicola, this is one of the things I'd like to come to Australia and do for y'all, was to show you, I've created a program, because we're actually going to take it in pieces. I'm going to Malaysia in March, and I'm going to do a 4-day workshop, and I've broken it down into 4 different areas, and I'm calling it the Fundamentals of Ultimate Healing. they're looking, these are doctors and things like that that are there, and they want to have the training done. And they didn't qualify for Dr. Nelson to go there, apparently, because they told me, oh, yeah, we know about that group. And when I confronted Amanda, who was in charge of that, she said, yeah, and Dr. Nelson wasn't able to do this. I'm very pleased that I'm able to go. And we're going to introduce the the fundamentals, which is we're going to cover the 5.5 parts of you. We're going to cover the 101 frequencies 101. We're going to cover, these are parts that are in the Ultimate Healer, not the full program, but enough that they can get their feet wet and they'll have a little bit of things to work with. And then I'll introduce also the Ultimate Healer program. So this is what I'd like to do to come to Australia and be able to present that. So I'm pretty much to that point. The question is, when can we do it? So that's what you and I need to talk about. Because if we can get a group of people there, we're going to be between 20 and 40 people that we're going to do in Malaysia. If we can get the same kind of response down there, that warrants being able to come down there, and I got to make sure I pay my way. So.
Yeah, for sure. Do you are there many Ultimate Healers in Australia already?
None.
Oh, really? My gosh.
No.
Well,
There's only about
be the first.
you could be. So right now there is I was trying to think, we have I think 28 Ultimate Healers, and probably I would say 10 that are practicing. So there's not that many that you're seeing the some of the really faithful ones here. And quite frankly, a lot of times people get involved because they want access to it and they just don't have time to really delve into it yet. So for somebody who's really wanting to get involved in that and move forward, this is the perfect time to do that. And there's still things we're updating. Trust me, there's always something we're updating. We're trying to put together a definition glossary, folks. I know it's what you want. So I couldn't get anybody to commit to helping me with that yet, but I'm sure I'll get plenty of critiques when we finally get some stuff out there. So let me share with you just real quick. What am I trying to do here? Let me just, rather, we don't really have time to do much volunteering today anyway. So let me just pop out of this real quick and bring this up here. If we go to, if you go to the Healers, not Healers Library, sorry, it's the wrong one. If you go to the body emotions, my main website, and Nicola, this would be best for you to see, because we would do the exact same presentation as this one. If we wait long enough, it might show up here. There we go. If you go to the Malaysia workshop and you click on this one, and there's the group that we had at the Ultimate Healers. I'll show this one here real quick. Very, very proud of these people. How fun is that, right? This was a great opportunity we had, and we're gonna have some fun with this. So let's see. I need this one here. So if you click on this button right here, it'll take you to what we're doing in Malaysia. And it will be in English, so you know. It's 4 days, and it's the fundamentals of ultimate healing, levels 1 and 2. It's a 4-day workshop, and we will definitely go through these different areas. So we got discovery, we got realization, we got release, and we got expansion. And so that will be the areas that we'll be covering. Now, Miss Amanda Chin is going to be handling this one. I show up and teach. Let's see, I think that's, you'll be able to see everything on here. So this is what we're going to be doing on each day. So there's a lot of information. Any questions on this? If I'll go off of this, but that's what we have. And of course, folks, I need to tell you too, the MasterMind Summit, I know it's short notice for some, but if you're in the area, we got a 3-dayer coming up next week. So we're going to be covering some of the things that I was talking about here also. But because of the short notices and everything, we got a very small group. So it'll be very intimate. But if anybody can make it, let's talk about it and get you here. So All right, questions for me, y'all?
My biggest question is, when are you free for us to have a one-on-one chat so I can look into this a bit more?
Well, that is, just go out and schedule an appointment. Go out, you know how to get to my website for that?
Yep. And if I get stuck, I'll message you.
Well, and that's the thing. If you go out there to the website, and we'll just go right back to here. If we go back to this one here, you can either click on this down here and it will say schedule now, or you can hover over this, you can schedule now. So if you go out there and if you click on this, it's going to bring up, and I believe you already have your time in there as far as the time zone. Usually when I work with my Australians, boy, my internet must be really slow tonight. Oh, it's waiting for the emotion. Okay, oh, now there it comes. Now it's going to refresh. So usually when I work with them, it's usually in the morning for you, and it's like my last session because you're that much further ahead of me. But if it's on there, and if you don't see something that works for you, then you let me know. Send me an email or a text or whatever works for you. You know, instant messaging is just fine too. And we'll figure out the time to do that. This thing is really slow. Just pick one of these. Introductory sessions is fine if we haven't done anything. And it'll walk you through. It'll just pick the time, the date, and according to whatever this is, you'll see that there's options out there. And of course, it will show your time zones if you have your right time zone in there. And then just continue through. It'll ask you for your email if you haven't already got that in there. This is Arizona times. And then, you know, we can go from there. Make sense? I've said that so much, my wife hates it now when I say that. Does that make sense? She goes, don't do that to me. So
I say that too.
So, all right, y'all. Any other questions? Thanks for putting up with me tonight. My voice has just not been where it's supposed to be. So,
Oh, actually, yeah. And a question in regards to that: have you been using like all this in regards to you being sick? And you know what I mean? Like when we get sick ourselves, do you find that when you're sick or when you're down, that you don't do healings for other people, or you limit them? Or
well, you want to hear another story? This is from today. So today, I had a client who we were working on. Let's see if I got her here quick. Wrong one. Oh, I think I put her away already. Hang on. Obviously, I'm not going to use her name, but not that you all know where she was anyway. But we were looking at trying to get her work back to dating. She wanted to be able to go to date. Hey, I can just get rid of this. I don't need to share with that. There we go. Is that better? So she, and we've been working on this a little bit, and obviously there's been some things in her life that have not been that great. And so we started to get to the point where we had to clear some things. And I came up to what's called a frequency balance, which is the three guardians that say mind, body, and spirit. If they don't agree with what's going to happen, it ain't going to happen. So usually I total them up to 100 points or 99. I cheat. I go 99. So I build this triangle that's got 99. And so mind is 33, body's 33, and spirit's 33. Does that make sense? What I'm saying so far? Okay. So in that situation, we found out that the ability to communicate was what she was really dealing with. So wanting to date again was a big thing for her because of the things that she's experienced in her past. But she's been working on her throat chakra, believe it or not. And sure enough, what shows up? The throat chakra. And the throat chakra on the emotional and physical levels. And we needed to do a balancing frequency, needed to do a frequency balance. The spirit was 33 and the body was 33. So neither one of those had an issue. But we had the mind, which was at 13. So 13 is kind of low, right? So we got to figure out what's going on. So we did the mind, and we had a mental no will to live. We had a microbial toxin of mold. And then we found that she had created her own curse 26 years ago at the age of 26 of not releasing the past. So I have a chart with different curses that I use so that, you can create your own curse. And in her situation, she created her own curse. And so she just wasn't releasing nothing, which is meant why she actually had a liver issue, because that was building up inside of her, the anger. And then that was where we were trying to, liver and anger was right there with the stuff we're dealing with. And so as I'm working, because I'm sick, all of a sudden I couldn't speak. And I was coughing. It would like cough, cough, cough. And I'm going, wow, I thought I was this part. And then she goes, oh no, that's exactly, every time I try to go to that area. And what it was doing was trying to keep me from releasing that issue. And I said, no, it's going to happen. I'm going to actually talk this. And then we got down to the next one, was a recreational drug, which when that pops up, I know that it's not drugs, but this was her drug of choice. And it was, according to the chart I have, is denial of responsibility. So that was her way of getting out of things. It's not my fault. No, I'm not going to take responsibility for that. And once again, it was the same age bracket of 26. And then I'm getting tingles all over talking about this. And I was like, I was coughing, I was hacking. She goes, it's okay, just spit it out. It's the same thing I went through when I was doing some of this clearing. So I was feeling everything that she was experiencing. And I said, this is going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. So it was affecting me directly because I was vulnerable. Is this answering your question? So it goes on. It gets better. But wait, there's more. See, it's even getting me now. Okay, so the misalignment of her thoracic intercostal muscles, and then there was another curse that she absorbed from a situation 36 years ago in 1984 when she was 16. There was a community issue, and it was the curse of incontinence. And so incontinence can mean a lot of different things, more than just having to go to the bathroom, but it could also mean not being able to rely on something. In fact, hers was things happening out of control. So that was the curse that she was dealing with. So we finally were able to release that one, which got us back a little bit. But in the meantime, I went from coughing to sneezing. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm going, we're going to cut through this thing. We're going to get through it. And by the end of this thing, everything was fine. She felt lifted. She could feel the release. And, she was releasing right through the shoulder area. I could feel that. And I think because I was in my weakened state, I felt that severely because I was being attacked. I said, I'm being attacked right now. Her subconscious did not, or a part, it was her subconscious, wasn't really ready to give that up yet. And you think about that, those two curses, things happening out of control, and then the curse of not releasing the past. I think we came up with a couple other things here. Post-hypnotic suggestions, we had a symbolic ovary issue, and then we found that we had a wall around her reproductive system, 4 inches thick, made out of the emotions, hopelessness, failure, and abandonment. And we released those, and then we had to release some residual evil energies, which are situations, once again, 36 years ago when she was 16, and then another one that was 16 years ago when she was 36. I mean, everything that we found, and by the end of it, you could just feel a lift. Because that had been holding on for a really long time, and that put her throat chakra back into place. And I thought, wow, a lot of cool things that happened in this particular issue. But understanding that I was susceptible during that whole time too. I got it. Linda, you don't want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you that under normal circumstances, do you hold sessions with folks when you feel as sick as you do? You sound like you don't feel well at all to us.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sick.
I know you're putting on your happy face, but I can just tell. I mean, I can read energy, and I can just tell you're just like hanging in there, you know?
I'm actually better than I was during that session.
Yeah.
Because it was zapping me. I just couldn't believe it was hitting all the right buttons. But here's the thing that I know that for some people, you can only handle so many sessions at a time. Mm-hmm. I worked with a lady once. We used to swap sessions, and she would be susceptible because apparently I am being attacked a lot. And she'd say, you know, I got to deal with this entity, and there's a cause of great stories. But what happened was she told me the experience, and she could see it. And she goes, okay, I got to go. I got to go lay down. And there's many people that can only handle a certain amount of sessions in a day when they're working with clients. And I've done sometimes up to 10 sessions in a day, and that's too much. For me now, I've cut back. I used to do 7 to 8, and now I've cut back to about 5 is about what I really like to do. When I'm sick, I don't want it. I find that the universe kind of takes care of it all of a sudden. All of a sudden they're rescheduling, or they don't sign up for that day. And I'm going, okay, there must be a reason why I don't have anything going on. Like this week, it's been actually pretty light, but now I realize I got to move tomorrow. I got a truck coming in.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, there's different things that I know that I just deal with. I find it's beautiful because I don't have to fill my 100% to be able to help somebody else, because my subconscious steps aside. And I'm not going to make them sick either.
Do you use shielding a lot though? Like, you shield yourself, right? And that's the thing. There's so many different people and different ways of shielding. Sometimes when you're first starting out, you don't know what shield to use, or you don't know what term of, you know, words and language to be using for shields.
That's very true. In fact, I know that the ladies that put together the T3 program, the 3-dimensional therapy program, what she did was she mentioned that when you need to be shielded. And so in her mind, when she starts to work, she puts on that lab coat. And when that lab coat's on there, that is my protection. She keeps that in mind, that that's the intention. Remember, it's always intention. And so you got to make sure. And I find that I find that my subconscious is pretty good. It keeps my shields up. And I'll test. And before I start, I always double check. And very few times do I ever miss. And I'll go, wait a minute, are my shields up? And I always say a prayer before I start a session. I thought about that. I know that Dr. Nelson just does the same thing, but he just does it silently. And, you know, I probably would stay out of less trouble if I didn't just assume. And so I ask people, are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Are you Hindu? Are you Buddhist? You know, and I just, you know, I just vary it. And I probably wouldn't have to, but I find that now my clients come on there and say, well, we haven't had our prayer yet. I'll go, okay, I've set a precedent. I'm the guy that says a prayer. So, and that's perfectly fine that I say it out loud. So that's how I know that I'm protected, because I know that when I do that, I got a little extra help helping us. So that's how I handle that personally.
Okay, Tom, the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, since you are in fact moving tomorrow, and that's great news, because that sounds like some things on your end fell into place like you were working on. So congrats on that. But would you try to work on yourself tonight so that you feel better tomorrow?
Well, actually, I've had a few wonderful people offer to do that.
Oh, good.
I've done that. And I think that's actually a lot better than I was a few days ago. Trust me.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, it's just been a crazy day. It was a little busier day, and last night I couldn't even sleep. It was 7 this morning before I could finally go to sleep. I had all this energy, but I can't lay down all the way because I keep coughing. So by that time, I got a couple hours this morning. I'm going, whew, there we go. I got some sleep. But yeah, I even tried before this to try and lay down. Couldn't do it. So I just came in here and did some work, and I get a lot done.